The Cincinnati Reds got a huge win on Monday night, but the big question that we have got to answer is, what do we do about Nick Lodolo?
You are Locked On Reds, your daily Cincinnati Reds podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Reds podcast. My name is Jeff Carr. I'm a lifelong Cincinnati Reds fan, and I've been hosting this podcast now going on my 7th season. I'm glad that you're alongside me here today. Locked On Reds is part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team, your Cincinnati Reds, every single day. And on today's show, we're going to discuss this amazing performance, this amazing win that the Reds had, and the gritty performance by this bullpen that seems to love the overworked label. We'll discuss that later on in today's show. We'll look at a couple of key moments in this win, including the best play by Ke'Bryan Hayes in a Reds uniform so far, and the reason why they traded him. That's in just a few minutes. We will begin today's show, though, by really answering the question, at least speculating on the answer, of what do you do with Nick Lodolo. That's all coming up on today's Locked On Reds podcast that is brought to you by 5-Hour Energy Transfusion. Go to 5hourenergy.com today and use my promo code LOCKEDONGolf to receive 20% off your order. Only valid through September 30th. Order transfusion-flavored 5-Hour Energy shots today. All right, Nick Lodolo pitched an inning and two-thirds, got 5 outs, didn't give up a hit, didn't give up a base runner, had a strikeout, looked good, and then he didn't. He threw one pitch after getting that second out in the second inning and was pulled. And in the postgame, he said that whenever he was looking at it, the skin had peeled away from his index finger, the same finger that he keeps having these blister issues with. The skin had peeled away. There was a bubble forming that had fluid in it. He has a blister. And he was asked, do you think this is going to put you on the IL? Well, he doesn't know. And quite frankly, if it goes like it has the last couple of times that he's had a blister, he's heading toward the IL. He's going to be out for a little bit because he keeps having this issue. And I think that we've got to worry about this as Reds fans. And I try not to. I really try to look at the positives. Everydayers will know. If you're an everydayer of the Locked On Reds podcast, you know that I tend to look at the sunny side of things when it comes to this Reds organization. But when it comes to Nick Lodolo, we are really getting into a territory that the sunny side might be a bullpen move. He is not the same pitcher without his curveball. It is clear that at the beginning of this season, he tried to re-grip his breaking ball, whether it's a curveball or slider or slurve or whatever it is. He tried a new grip with it, and he never got the feel for it. He never had an effective breaking ball as an out pitch. He really developed his changeup into a weapon, and his fastball sets up the changeup well. His fastball also sets up the breaking ball well, but he really lost that breaker early on. And then there seemed to be a marked change about a couple of weeks ago where that breaking ball just started going, and he started locating it exactly where he wants to put it on the back foot of a right-handed hitter. And he was doing it so well, and we were seeing Ace 1B. And now the blister's back. This is such a silly thing, like in the grand scheme of baseball injuries that can really mess with a player. A blister on his index finger is the thing that it's his kryptonite. Honestly, Nick Lodolo's best pitch, his breaking ball, is also his kryptonite. The reason that he is strong is the reason that he is weak. And we as Reds fans just continue to get saddled with things like this when it comes to these guys that we're like, man, this guy's really going to get us there. And then something out of nowhere pops up. Some injury concern. It's always an injury concern. And now we have a blister injury concern because it's now the third major time that we know of, at least in his professional career, that Nick Lodolo's dealt with this. He dealt with it in the minor leagues, and he lost a good amount of time in Double-A for that. He dealt with it last year, lost a good amount of time for it. I think he had another thing. This might be his fourth time, actually. Quite honestly, it feels like 9, 10, 11. If it's been 3, it's been 15 when it comes to him and dealing with these blisters. So at this point, the Reds medical staff should have a strategy for avoiding this. And I cannot believe that they don't. I think they used I forget what Steve called it. It's like a fake skin or something like that, which is legal in Major League Baseball, but they use that to kind of help him out. But that seemed to peel away quite quickly. However he grips his curveball must just put so much friction on his index finger that he just has no shot of throwing an effective curveball without damaging himself. And I find that so odd to me. So, okay, if that is what he's going to do, then he's got to do it in smaller bite-sized samples that he can sustain over longer periods of time. If you're not going to get longer appearances from him, get a greater quantity of appearances from him is kind of where I'm at with this. And maybe there's something that the Reds medical staff should figure out. I know that I saw some folks suggesting that, well, Nolan Ryan had this problem early on in his career and they figured out how to fix that. But Nolan Ryan also had the best fastball ever. I mean, the curveball or his breaking ball was very secondary to his efforts. This is Nick Lodolo's best pitch. And I understand that he developed the changeup. I mentioned that. And I love seeing him use it. But that is still secondary to this breaker. His breaker is his money maker. Yes, that rhymed. But I really think that without it, he's just okay. So you keep it. You make him pitch shorter stints. Now, he's less valuable. Starting pitchers are more valuable than relief pitchers. But they just got Zach Littell. They're getting Hunter Green off of the injured list here soon. All reports are his most recent rehab start went well. His recovery went well. They're going to stretch him out to 80 pitches here. I believe this Friday is the plan for that. And so then hopefully they would be able to bring him back next week. But with that being said, you open up the opportunity there. And of course, you still have Nick Martinez to do whatever you need him to do. He's the Swiss Army pitcher. But this team is not as good without Nick Lodolo in the starting rotation. That's the other part of this, is that sure, individually this could work and you could get more appearances out of him. But I don't see this being a positive. As much as I want to spin this in some sort of positive way, I can't. When you look at Nick Lodolo, he is a guy who has pitched a complete game this year. He is a guy who has shown the ability to be the ace of your staff many different times. But if asking him to throw 100 pitches every 5 days, as opposed to, say, 100 pitches every 10 days, is probably going to be less detrimental to the injury concern of a blister, then you've got to explore that. And that could be the prudent way of looking at this for Nick Lodolo, because the other option is he just doesn't pitch anymore. And I don't think that we're to that point. I don't think that we're saying you got to retire because you got a blister on your index finger too many times. But it certainly seems like what they have done has done absolutely nothing to prevent this from happening. Because we wouldn't be talking about it right now if it had worked. So, move him to the bullpen. I don't know. I don't love it. But that might be the only way to maintain his value to this team. It's hopefully, maybe, I don't know. I saw somebody joke on Twitter, make a bionic finger. And we have the technology. Not quite, but you know what I'm getting at. This is an important thing because you can't just take the breaking ball away from Nick Lodolo and expect him to continue. He needs the breaking ball. You got to figure this out, Reds. Got to figure this out. And if it's, some of the medical thing that you haven't figured out yet, if it's moving him to the bullpen, whatever it is, you got to figure this out because the team is better with Nick Lodolo in any capacity. It's not as good without him in the rotation, but they need him in some capacity on this team. But I know this, the Reds got a huge win on Monday night, and one of the biggest reasons, maybe arguably the biggest reason, was a play made by Brian Hayes. The pressure's getting turned up on the baseball diamond, and that means there's no better time to get in on the action than right now over at FanDuel. And new users can go to FanDuel.com, place a $5 wager, and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. FanDuel's got all kinds of great lines. I mean, today's Tuesday. You get your Dinger Tuesday on. You've got run lines and money lines, over-unders. I'm looking specifically at tonight's over-under up in Wrigley between the Reds and the Cubs of 8 runs. I'm just feeling it. I know Shota Imanaga's pitching for the Cubs. I feel like the Reds lineup is really going to string together some hits tonight. Sort of saw a glimpse of that on Monday night. I think that the Reds are going to help this over just get smashed. I'm smashing the over on 8 total runs for this game, and you should too. Over on FanDuel, like I said, if that's your first $5 bet and it wins, you'll get $150 in bonus bets. Open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to get started. Thank you for making Locked On Reds part of your everyday routine. If you are an everydayer, you rock. And if you're not an everydayer, hit that subscribe button on YouTube and on your favorite podcasting app and make us part of your everyday routine. We're going to be with you all throughout the rest of the season. And when you get that subscription, you also get the Reds postcast with Tim Daniel. He goes live at the end of every Reds game, and it's in your audio feed shortly after the live show ends. All right, the Reds got the win, 3-2, big time. I mean, this was the kind of win that you hit the reset button on because the weekend for the Reds was a mess. The Reds were not immune. Look, me as a fan, and I know that Steve went into this ad nauseum, so I'm not going to go into my personal experience, maybe on a later show or something like that, but the Speedway Classic will forever go down in my memory as a huge, weird thing that I did, and a negative, to be honest with you. I loved getting to meet a bunch of everydayers. Shout out to DJ and shout out to Roy and shout out to Mark and shout out to a bunch of people that came up and said, hey, maybe you feel really good. I mean, it was great to see you guys and talk some baseball with you for just a few minutes. But at the same time, there's also all the other stuff that happened. And the Reds, quite frankly, got a really, really short straw this past weekend because of the whole Speedway Classic. And the way that Tito still kept Chase Burns in on Saturday night, so then he only gets to throw an inning, and you have to do a bullpen day on Sunday. And so they're really overworked already going into Chicago. They lose the off day, all this other stuff. The weekend, Saturday and Sunday for the Cincinnati Reds probably felt like a week, maybe even 10 days. So getting the win on Monday night is a huge reset button because you lose Nick Lodolo early in the game. If you end up losing that ball game, then, man, you just talk about this huge weight you put on your shoulders. But instead, the Reds survive. And it's a huge reason why. We'll talk about the bullpen here in just a little bit. But the biggest reason for me, I know they had a nice, timely hitting, strung 3 hits together there in the 7th inning, and they took the lead. But it's all about the Ke'Bryan Hayes play. Because I'm telling you right now, name any player that the Reds have put at third base so far this season, other than Ke'Bryan Hayes, they're not making that play. If you missed the play, it was a bouncing ball down the line in fair territory, and it took like a short hop in front of third base, right in front of the base. And the runner had already left. There was a runner on third at this point. He ran on contact. And Dansby Swanson was the guy who hit the ball. He's pretty fast. And so Ke'Bryan Hayes fields it cleanly, takes a step, and throws. Right on the money. And the umpire initially called Dansby Swanson safe. And if you missed that replay, Dansby Swanson's foot actually hits the ground an inch in front of the bag. So because of the perfect scoop, perfect throw, perfect everything by Ke'Bryan Hayes at third base, the Reds got the final out of the inning, and they maintained a 3-2 lead because that was the tying run. At that point, that Graham Ashcraft was pitching on the mound for that one, and man, that was a gritty performance by him and everybody involved, but that play by Ke'Bryan Hayes is not made by anybody else on this roster. And that is the reason that he was acquired at the trade deadline, because the Reds don't have that guy. They don't have the closer in the field, right? I mean, we use the term closer for a relief pitcher, but you need a clutch fielder. The Reds don't have a clutch fielder until now. They've got their guy. I said it before, and I'll say it again. Ball's going on the left side. And, of course, his very first game, he made a 2-run error. But He's shown us ever since that point, anything that comes his way is going to turn into an out. He was absolutely phenomenal in that play. And I think that is the most important play, but there were a couple more important plays on that game. And I'm sure that, Tim talked about a few of them, but I kind of want to reiterate, in case he did say something about it, I also want to reiterate my support for TJ Friedl hitting left-handed pitching. This has been a bit of a struggle this season for him against lefties. Up until this point, up until 2025, he actually was good against lefties. He was a lefty that actually had reverse splits. He was better against lefties than righties. This year, everything's normalized. His power, his average, his on-base, everything is so much better against righties. This year, according to the stat OPS+, we love to use this a lot here on the Locked On Reds show, everydayers will know, but according to his total OPS+ for the season, he is 29% worse than what he has done on the year when he faces lefties. Now, he's still pretty close to league average compared to lefties across Major League Baseball who face left-handed pitching. He's got a 93 OPS plus compared to the average left-handed hitter against a left-handed pitcher. So he's not detrimentally bad, but comparative to who he is as a player, he is worse. So the fact that he came up with a huge clutch hit against Caleb Thielbar whenever the Cubs made a concerted effort that they're okay, we warmed up a righty in Ryan Brazier and we warmed up a lefty in Caleb Thielbar. We're going to play this inning very strategic and make sure that we get the outs and we keep this scoreboard clean, because at that point it was 2-2. And the Reds did their job and they got on base and they hit a couple of singles. They had 3 straight hits to take the lead. And as Cowboy said on the broadcast, as John Sadek said, as Tommy Thrall said, as everybody has said about this team, the way that they go is when they string hits together. And that's what they did. And to see TJ come through in the clutch in that moment was so huge for me, especially the night that he had. He was looking rough early on. He had a couple of very quick at-bats that were very meaningless in the grand scheme of things because he was out so fast. And then he had a strikeout as well, and you're like, okay, probably not his night. Turns it all around with a big-time clutch hit. And not to be outdone, on a night that you can't hit home runs, Tyler Stephenson drilled one. This night in particular, the wind was blowing in right field, so anything out to right field was an out. Anything to center field was an out, pretty much. So Ty Steve pulled this thing laser to left field, a homer in all 30 ballparks. It wasn't like a lucky shot. He absolutely destroyed it. So to show that any one power can really help you out, Tyler Stephenson once again proves that correct. I find it intriguing looking at these 3 plays in total, because we have been clamoring for somebody who does all of these, right? We've been clamoring for the Reds to acquire a good glove that's also a power hitter that also hits lefties. And honestly, they have multiple different guys that do different things at different times. And that's a bit annoying whenever the wrong guy's up in the wrong spot. But it just so happened that Monday night, in every single spot that the Reds needed the right guy in, he was there and he came through. It wasn't to the point where they blew out the Cubs. They're not going to blow out the Cubs. If the Reds are beating the Cubs in the year of our Lord 2025, it's because they outpitched them. It's because their pitching shut down their hitting. Because this Reds lineup is not as good as this Cubs lineup. But the Reds did everything that they could on the mound and in the field to stop this Cubs team. I loved it, and especially even in the inning when Tony Santillan hit PCA to start the inning. And there was some debate, did PCA even try to get out of the way? I don't care about that. I get it. You can really split hairs in situations like that, but at the same time, he got hit. So he's on base. How do you recover from that? Tony Santillan does it perfectly because he keeps pitching. He's pitching against Nico Hoerner, who wants to go the other way. He continually just pitches him inside, fastballs inside, doesn't throw a breaking ball at all because he knows Nico Hoerner's going to read that and he's going to go the other way with it and make it first and third with nobody out. So what's he do? He throws a fastball, a little bit of a sinking fastball that runs in on the hands of Hoerner. Hoerner still actually gets a good bat on it, hits a line drive right at Matt McLain, who then throws it to first base and gets PCA for the second out. Tony Santillan was pitching a strategically amazing inning. And the way that he did it in so few pitches, and then he strikes out Kyle Tucker on 3 pitches right after getting Nico Hoerner, it was just such a vibe. And I was so happy to see that. There was some great plays made by Reds players there in great situations. I was happy to see that they came through in the clutch. All right, so with that, we have to ask the question, is this bullpen too overworked? Because I think the answer is they prefer it that way. Time to fuel up and turn it up with 5-Hour Energy Transfusion. It brings the bold grape, ginger, and lime flavor of your favorite golf drink, minus the alcohol, into a quick, energizing shot. Whether you're sinking birdies or just making memories with friends, this one's a hole-in-one for your energy game. I mean, we've all had those days this summer where we're out on the course and it's absolutely blistering hot and you really could use an extra kick. That's exactly what you get with 5-Hour Energy Transfusion. If you go to 5hourenergy.com today, that's the number 5hourenergy.com, you can use the promo code LOCKEDONGOLF and receive 20% off your order. This offer is only valid until September 30th on one order and cannot be used with other promotions. The code is not good on subscription orders. Whether you're meeting up with friends or trying to turn 18 holes into 36, get that energizing boost you need to power through. Order transfusion-flavored 5-Hour Energy shots today. If you can't watch us on YouTube, you can always listen to us on your favorite podcasting app. We're on all of them out there. Make sure you check us out today. And when you're done watching today's Locked On Reds podcast, go check out Locked On MLB Game Night. They watch every game every night, so that you don't have to, because quite frankly, you can't. It's impossible to watch every game every night, unless you have a bunch of TVs and MLB.TV, and you can work your way around blackouts. There's a lot of different things you would have to do to watch every single ball game, but Locked On MLB Game Night's got you covered. That's over on the Locked On MLB feed. All right, so the Reds had a big-time win on Monday night, and we talked about some of the key plays, and they include key pitching performances from the bullpen. Because, as we said, Nick Lodolo left after getting 5 outs. You had Nick Martinez come in and pitch 2 1/3, which I honestly thought he was going to pitch more based on the fact that the bullpen was so overworked on Sunday that you wanted to avoid having to overwork them on Monday as well. But one of the things that Terry Francona continually says in pregame and postgame interviews is that his favorite thing about the Reds bullpen is that it does not matter how many days a guy pitches. He can go up to him the next day, and that guy's like, I'm ready to pitch. Tony Santillan, Emilio Pagán, Graham Ashcraft, all of them. None of them are going up to Tito and saying, you know what, coach, you know what, I need a night off. You know, I get it. We're overtaxed, but I can't go tonight. None of them are saying that. And to their credit, they shouldn't be. But in this day and age, when it's all about contracts and things like that, they've got to, worry about their long-term future. It's interesting to note that none of them are doing that. None of them are like overselling the fact that they're throwing a lot of games. And quite frankly, that's where we are with this team, because the Reds have the leaders in appearances, and they actually, they continue their lead because both Scott Barlow and Tony Santillan are 1-2. Actually, Tony Santillan is 1 and Scott Barlow is 2 as far as games pitched out of the bullpen for anybody in the league. This is the major leagues, not the National League, all Major League Baseball. Tony Santillan and Scott Barlow lead the league, and they both pitched on Monday as well, so they continue that. Tony Santillan's now up to 56 appearances, and Scott Barlow's up to 55. And Scott Barlow had probably not even probably. I'm not even going to say probably. He had his best appearance on Monday night, because with that whole Nick Martinez only throwing 2 1/3 innings, they bring in Barlow in the 5th, and you're like, okay, how's this going to work? This seems too early to take out Nick Martinez. And Barlow goes 1, 2, 3, strike him out, set him up, knock him down. Loved it. Good morning, good afternoon, good night. Send him back down. And then he brings him back out again in the 6th, and you're like, okay, let's see what happens. He gets 2 outs. You're like, man, he's just going to keep rolling. I love what Scott Barlow has done here recently. because he has had those outings where he walks multiple people, but he still figures out how to pitch around them. I don't want him to continue to do that in every time he's up because he's going to get burned eventually. I mean, that's why he's not sitting here with like a perfect ERA, but he's done a nice job of pitching around damage. And then you have Tony Santillan. Like, John Sadak mentioned this on the broadcast last night. And I said, I had the bold take at the beginning of the season that I thought Tony Santillan would lead the team in saves. He's not going to do that. Emilio Pagán is having a great year as the Reds closer so far, and hopefully he finishes it out. But Tony Santillan might be the most valuable relief pitcher on this team because he comes in the tight situations and he gets the job done. He shuts the door. The other team has no shot. I mean, he does a fantastic job. He's inherited 23 runners. Only 10 of them have scored. Now, you could see that come down a little bit. That's one of those statistics, inherited runners scoring, where you do want to see it be a lot shorter than that. But he's done a fantastic job of that. And then you have Emilio Pagán. I don't think we appreciate him enough because, quite frankly, there's an argument that closers are a dime a dozen. There was a great statistic, and this came from our Locked On A's host, Booney, when he was talking about the Mason Miller trade. And I believe it's since 2000, since the turn of the century, 260 closers have at least 20 saves. 260. And not even closer, just 260 relief pitchers have recorded at least 20 saves in a season. That's insane. And you know this. I did. I mean, I was all in on Alexis Diaz. And we as a Reds fan base, we were all in on Alexis Diaz. Because you remember the offseason when they were getting trade calls from the New York Mets, and all of us were just like, heck no, you ain't trading him. Are you kidding me? So I think that we have both an overblown view of closers, and somehow we are not appreciating Emilio Pagán enough. But I've loved what he has done because he has saved this team. I mean, you know, he's got a good number of saves on the season, but as much as I love talking about saves, I don't, by the way. If you're not an everydayer and you're to this point and you don't know this, that's not my favorite statistic when it comes to relief pitching. But everything else he is so good at. I mean, Emilio Pagán has allowed one inherited runner to score all year. Now, he's only gotten 6 because there's been a lot of times when he's coming in at the beginning of the 9th inning. But he's also got an 88% save percentage. And when you kind of like average that out based on guys that have like a ton of appearances and actual chances to save ball games and things like that, he's really good. We're talking top 15 in the league. I think that overall, Emilio Pagán is the kind of guy that he did not expect to be doing this at the beginning of the season, or, you know, the beginning of February. It looked like it was going to be Alexis Diaz and also the acquisition of Taylor Rogers, who ironically had a 1-2-3 strike him out every single guy against the Reds in this Monday night game. But because he's moved on to Chicago after being traded to Pittsburgh, all that good stuff. But I kind of thought Taylor Rogers would be the next man up if Alexis Diaz couldn't close. And Emilio Pagán said, nah, I got you. I mean, he's knocking on the door of 30 saves this year. And if things continue to go the way that they are and the bullpen is just going to keep getting used so much, he might hit 40. Not a lot of Reds closers have done that. And as much as it's a statistic that I don't love glorifying, 40's nothing to shake a stick at when it comes to getting those saves. I do wonder a little bit about how this is going to move forward because I thought they would get one more arm at the deadline. They didn't. And Zach Maxwell just isn't going to be that guy this year. I don't love his control numbers. His control numbers, honestly, they concern me that he will ever be a major league viable relief pitcher, as awesome as he seems in games. And, you know, we still remember him in the spring training breakout game, you know, give him the thumbs down to the guy that he struck out. Love that energy. But if he's going to walk as much as he's walking, he's not a viable major league reliever. So whoever's next in line, like, and Connor Phillips is the same way. He still has control problems. So will he ever be a part of the Major League pitching staff? I have my doubts. So you're going to have to figure out who is holding this bullpen together for the rest of this season. Now, Graham Ashcraft has missed time on the injured list, and so he's a little bit more fresh than some of these other pitchers. But again, he is a bit of a coin flip where it's like if he doesn't get strike one, buckle up. It's going to be a bumpy ride. So I'm curious to see how this works out. But Tito is sold on his bullpen group. And he seems to be pulling the right strings with them on most nights. He certainly did on Monday. Hopefully he does tonight too. That's going to do it for us here today on the Locked On Reds podcast. Thank you so much for checking out today's Locked On Reds. If you're not subscribed and you got to this point, definitely hit that subscribe button. You'll also get the Reds postcast with Tim Daniel. He goes live at the end of every Reds ball game, and it goes into your audio feed shortly thereafter. Coming up on tomorrow's show, Steve and I will kind of break down this discussion about Nick Lodolo a little bit more. I'm sure he'll push back a bit on moving him to the bullpen, and maybe he's got an idea on how to prevent blisters a little bit since he's a little bit more health inclined than I am. But we've got so much more to talk about with this team because they're in Chicago. Very important series. See if they can get the win going up against Shota Imanaga tonight. We'll see how it plays out. But always know that we will be here with you every single day because we are Locked On Reds every single day.